Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Bowman. I am excited to join you guys today to talk about this incredibly important topic, all around weight management. Today, we're going to discuss how we can maximize our lifestyle to reach and maintain a healthy body composition. But before we get started, I want you just to take a minute and think how easy it is to gain weight compared to losing weight. All right, let's just let that sink in. Let that reality sink in here for a minute. I'm sure in a given point in our life, we've had the ups and downs, and that's, sometimes part of life. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what can we do, what goes into weight management and what can we do and how can we strengthen our journey as it relates to achieving a healthy weight and a healthy body composition, but how can we maintain that as best as possible? I want to tell you a little bit about who we are and who I am as well. So my name is Steve Bowman. I am a health professional and health educator. I've been working in the health and well-being space, mostly in the employer side, for about 16 years now. I went to the University of Delaware for health behavior management, and I got my master's in health promotion. In addition to that, I'm also a certified health educator. And for me, I have a passion for really just getting to know people, seeing where they are and helping them with anything they need in their life, especially as it relates to a health perspective. So our Live and Lead organization is one that we're building to really create a framework for how we can better serve and support people. So I'm going to show you a quick video here, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about our mission and our values and what we're doing before we dive into the topic. So let me play this for everybody.
Do you want to understand health challenges, live better, and lead by example? We are Live and Lead, and our mission is to provide a complimentary online school that empowers and equips you to transform your health and become the best version of yourself. We offer online health transformation courses to help you understand specific health challenges, craft your personal health transformation, and show you how to lead by example. We provide a variety of courses to support you in reaching and maintaining a healthy weight, improving your mental health and cognitive function, strengthening your immunity, tackling high blood pressure, optimizing your cholesterol, demolishing diabetes, and living healthy, now and forever. Please consider joining our community by registering for our school today at liveandlead.teachable.com. You matter, your health matters.
All right, so building off of that, I want to stress a few things and highlight that we created an online school as our starting point. That was where we wanted to first kind of lay a framework for a complimentary school that anybody can join. Anybody, anywhere across the world, they're able to join. But simply, I wanted to share our vision and kind of what we do. So we want to focus on a few things. We want to empower and equip people to really improve their mindset, but their behaviors and their lifestyle, to honestly go through and create a lifestyle that they deserve, a lifestyle in which they're putting their health and, their values and all their key things they want out of their life into perspective. But aside from that, we do a couple things, and we're building this out as of now. So we are a baby in regards to our age as a business. We have been at this for about 9 months now, and we're building a business all around speaking, teaching, and coaching. So essentially, we speak through engagements and presentations. We teach through our podcasts, our blogs, our content, and we coach through our online courses, as well as our coaching services that we're in the process of creating right now. And I want you guys to understand that we are very focused on serving our community. We're going to do that through collaborating with community partners, but also just serving and supporting our end students. That is our goal, and that's our mission. The difference maker in regards to healthy living is all around lifestyle. So I really want to highlight a few things here. Lifestyle medicine is an emerging field. And essentially what it is looking at the root causes of health problems, i.e. primarily lifestyle related choices, and figuring out what we can do to honestly make our best efforts to improve our lifestyle and address the cause through healthy living. And more information and evidence-based research is really showing that the great majority of chronic diseases, which are lifestyle-related diseases for the most part, they are related to our lifestyle. So if our lifestyle causes these challenges, then our lifestyle also becomes the solution. And so lifestyle medicine looks at a cluster of behaviors, and these 6 core behaviors really look at a whole food plant predominant diet, regular physical activity, adequate sleep, getting that 7 to 9 hours, daily, stress management, cultivating relationships, and avoiding toxic substances. That is the cluster that has been proven. If you look at populations around the world, the longest, healthiest living populations, that cluster of behaviors really help to prevent, treat, and reverse chronic diseases. And this is sometimes not mentioned by the medical world. Oftentimes, they do a very good job of diagnosing a problem and then addressing the symptoms of that problem, traditionally through pills, procedures, surgeries, and all kinds of outpatient types of offerings. What we like to focus on is what are the lifestyle factors and the lifestyle causes of these problems. Now, it's not an end all be all that the lifestyle is the only factor. There's other components as well, but we can control our lifestyle for the most part. The average American, the average person can make changes to their lifestyle. Sometimes it's a little easier for some, a little challenging for others, but we have to own our health. We have to own our lifestyle. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk all around unhealthy body composition. We're going to talk about the causes, the risks, but then I'm going to share some information as it relates to the good news about body composition. And we're going to talk about that. And then hopefully today you're going to be able to walk away understanding what are some key areas that you can improve and you want to improve specifically for your lifestyle. Not only to reach and maintain a healthy body composition, but essentially just to be more healthy overall. How can we, improve our activity and our nutrition and really set ourselves up to prevent, treat, or reverse any chronic diseases? So let's go through this list quickly here. So these are some of the most common causes of being unhealthy and having an unhealthy body composition. So the sad reality is that about 2/3 of Americans are either overweight or obese. And what that means is that we're carrying additional body fat around that we don't need. Okay. So before we get into what are some of the causes, I want to kind of highlight the fact that our body, when we store body fat, is doing what it's supposed to do. When we have additional energy that we're not using, our body stores it. It stores it in the form of body fat for later use. So the good news is if we ever were to have a shortage at the grocery store, those of us that may carry a little extra pounds, it's a good thing, right? You probably don't think of it like that, but your body can go a little longer. It has some stored energy. That's what body fat is. So let's talk about some of the key areas that people essentially store extra body fat. In the American diet, especially, we have a fiber deficiency. We oftentimes do not consume enough fiber. Plant-based foods, it comes from roughage, it comes from a variety of different plant sources. We oftentimes focus so much in America on protein, but so little on fiber. Now, if you look at the hyper concentration on protein, if you were to see a graph of the climbing rates of obesity and individuals being overweight, you would see that it's following the protein. As we consume more protein and fat and less fiber, weight goes up. In addition, consuming high calorie dense foods and not consuming enough low calorie dense foods. So more to come on that in a few slides. In addition, most of the foods we consume are processed in one shape or form. They're highly processed, whether they are just quick, easy heat up meals or our beverage consumption. Somebody might go to Starbucks and drink an 800 calorie coffee. So we have to be aware that our food has changed over the last 50 years, 60 years. Our genetics have not. They might have changed slightly, but really it's our lifestyle that's changed. We consume way too much dietary fat. We eat too fast or we overeat. I know myself, I'm guilty of that at times for sure. Unhealthy eating due to inadequate sleep. Sleep is essential. And in America, oftentimes we underestimate the value of sleep and physical activity, and we just kind of eat what's convenient, and we're very fast paced. We have very fast paced lifestyles, and we're oftentimes doing too much. And then lastly, physical activity levels can play a role. I'm going to get to that in a few, but that's not the direct result of the obesity and overweight epidemic. It's essentially a factor that we should consider. So, not to belabor the point, but we should all understand that we have a huge list of risks that come with individuals that carry additional weight. When we carry additional weight, it can impair our mental health, our cardiovascular system, and it stresses our cardiovascular system in many different ways. And to call that out, the number one cause of death in America is heart disease. So this is something that certainly plays a role in that as well. It impairs our endocrine system, and you'll see as the average weight of Americans has climbed, so has diabetes. As nutrition and weight gain has gotten worse, so has diabetes. It's skyrocketed. And it is unfortunately the fastest growing chronic disease in American history. It also affects our reproductive system. And then especially in a time like now, and really always, our immune system. Our immune system is negatively affected when we carry additional weight. So we want to be mindful of that as well. And then you can see the list goes on. There are many, many risks that come with unhealthy body composition, but essentially holding excess body fat. So before we dive into the live better areas, what we can do and what we should all consider when it comes to our own personal journey, I want to call out a few things. It's important for us to understand that change is oftentimes necessary and change is possible. One of the saddest things I've seen as a health professional when people have lost hope, when they don't believe that they can lose weight, that they can live healthier. But I'm here to tell you, I've seen some dramatic stories, some crazy stories where people, they took advantage of healthy living. They implemented healthy living, healthy behaviors from nutrition to sleep to stress management to activity, and their life took a 180. Okay, so the first thing I want you to understand is you have to adapt an I can mindset. You have to focus on a positive mindset. Confucius once said, those who think they can and those who think they can't are right. All right, so it's important for us to understand that we have to affect our mindset. And it makes me think of a fun little story. If you were to look at two bricklayers, oftentimes those bricklayers are doing the same job. They're laying bricks. You ask one bricklayer, what are you doing? And they say, I'm moving bricks from here to there. You ask the other bricklayer and say, well, what are you doing? And they say, I'm building a school that's going to help thousands of students. Same job, different mindset, different perspective. So that's the way we need to think about it with our health. We need to have that positive mindset and encourage us, talk to ourselves like a friend. If I was working or talking to anybody in this webinar, I would certainly be much nicer and more supportive and encouraging than oftentimes I am with myself. So you have to have an I can mindset and talk to yourself like a friend. We also need to commit to change and understand that it takes consistency and it takes time. Healthy living has immediate benefits, but it also has long-term benefits. Some take longer to achieve than others. And then know that if you're currently dealing with any health challenges right now, you can undo those things. You can arrest and reverse those challenges as well. I've seen people that have had high blood pressure for 15 years. They adjust their lifestyle and they're free of it. Diabetes, hormonal issues, weight challenges, the list goes on. There are so many things that we can improve if we address the cause. A couple things here. Just want you to be really focused on being a doer instead of talking about it. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. We have to start doing it. We have to come up with our plan. We have to prepare, and then we have to take action. And we're going to talk about a system that we recommend here in a minute. All right. So now that we've focused on some key behavior change concepts and ideas, let's talk about how we can all live better. So when we think about what were some of the causes of, struggling to keep a healthy body composition, which is essentially your height relative to your weight, But we can all look at ourselves and our health and say, okay, are we in good health? And am I where I want to be from a body fat, body weight perspective? The good news is that we can improve. We can make some changes. So all the things on this list here, we're going to go one by one through each of these. But what I want you to do as we're going through these areas is consider for yourself, how am I doing with this area? Can I do better with this area? And what plans will I take? And I'm going to have some reflection questions towards the end of today's presentation. But I want you to consider that. Okay, so as we go through, what's the area? How are you doing? What can you do better? So the first thing is eat well. We need to consider what eating well is. And simply put, I have a lot of students that say, what's healthy eating? And I always tell them, I want you to think of healthy eating as consuming the foods and beverages that add the most value to you and minimizing the ones that don't. All right. So what does that look like? So based off of a wide body of research and, evidence-based research that is, so we need to understand that a diet primarily, again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, but the more unprocessed plant-based foods we consume, the better for us. Okay. So key thing there is unprocessed plant-based foods, not necessarily just vegan term, vegetarian term, because oftentimes vegan foods, vegetarian foods can be very, very unhealthy and not necessarily, they might be indulgent and tasty, but they might not be the best from a health perspective. So this is a diet that really emphasizes a colorful variety of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, which are beans, peas, and lentils. And really building your plate around those foods. We're going to talk about calorie density, but these foods are the powerhouses. These are the foods that provide the most vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals and antioxidants. All these incredible things are packed naturally in these foods. So what we have to understand here is by eating well and eating these types of foods for all the reasons we're going to talk about here, about, whether it's eating the rainbow or nutrient density, low calorie density, eating well consists of eating a diet primarily in these. It's not all or nothing. You might say, well, I'm not going to not eat animal-based foods or not eat oil or not eat at a restaurant. You absolutely can do all those things. But what you have to understand is what you do the majority of the time is what matters most. So, I've helped a lot of people shift towards eating well and eating more plant-based or all plant-based. Everybody's going to find their natural point and say, okay, well, I'm good with the 90-10 or the 95-5, 80-20. It's up to you to decide. But eating well is a diet that consists of all those different food groups. Next on the list is eating the rainbow. So it turns out that all of our grandparents were right. Fruits and vegetables are good. We should eat our fruits and vegetables. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes are the 4 primary food groups that we should be consuming. Fruits and vegetables are the all-stars. They are the best of the best. I mean, when you think about it, just consider all the incredible color and variety we get from the natural fruit and vegetable world. When we go to the grocery store, we should first go to that produce aisle and say, okay, let's get as much color in our cart as possible. Not color from processed foods, cans and bags and boxes, but really get our color from natural fruits and vegetables. So what we have to do here is consider the fact that fruits and vegetables are incredibly, incredibly healthy for us. We don't have to go too far into the science to explain all the detailed reasons as to what happens from a nutritional or chemical perspective. These foods are proven to be incredibly helpful for us. And the goal is to eat as much of them as possible. I have 2 rules when it comes to fruits and vegetables that I always tell people, or 2 recommendations, that is. If you see fruit, eat it. And if you want to eat a colorful variety of vegetables. Vegetables are the best of the best. Second to that, fruits are incredibly good. And they're both low calorie density, which we'll talk about next. But when we eat these foods, it displaces some of the more unhealthier foods. So if you made your goal eating 5, 6, 7, 8 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, it's going to displace some of the more calorie dense foods. You're just naturally going to have more bulk, more fiber, more water through your food. that you're not going to be reaching for the others like you would normally. All right, so let's dispel a myth here. Carbohydrates are good for you. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. Aside from what you hear with all the ketogenic, Atkins, more that shift or that type of recommendation, by so many, so much research shows that carbohydrates are good for us. And not only are they good for us, we need them. When we go into ketosis, it's essentially a way of tricking our body to burn body fat because we're not giving it the gas it needs. The gas that our body needs to run off of is carbohydrates. I've seen some research and statistics that say our brain needs a minimum of 500 calories from carbohydrates daily. So we don't want to deprive our brain and our body. Carbohydrates are the fuel source for our body. Essentially, when we take in carbohydrates in the form of fruits, vegetables, beans, grains, the best is complex, unprocessed grains, unprocessed fruits and veggies. But when we consume these things, they go into our bloodstream as glucose. And what happens is our body uses them. It's readily available energy. But if we don't use all the glucose, all the blood sugar, what happens is our body stores them in our muscle cells. It stores them for later energy. So it's important for us to understand that these carbohydrates are incredibly beneficial. They are not only really good from a chronic disease perspective, but they also help fuel you, satisfy you, and add so much value. But they also are so packed with fiber that they actually decrease the amount of calories that can actually be absorbed. So when we consume complex carbohydrates, it's a really good thing. One note there, if you have gluten sensitivity or celiac disease, which is less than 1% of the American population, if you struggle with these things and you're having some sensitivities, then you can consider working with your doctor to get a test to see if if you do in fact have one of those two challenges. So as mentioned earlier, we want to focus on eating low-calorie, nutrient-dense foods. So nutrient-dense foods are high in nutritional value and oftentimes low in calories. So for example, nutrient-dense foods that are low in calories are things like fruits and vegetables. On average, a pound of vegetables is about 100 calories per pound of food. A pound of fruit is typically around 200 calories. A pound of beans, legumes, lentils, peas, or whole grains are typically around 500 calories per pound. So that's kind of like the red line. Everything in the plant-based world is typically less than 500 calories per pound of food, with the exception of things like nuts and seeds, avocados, things like that. They're more on the fattier side, which we'll talk about those in a second. But what we have to understand here is that we want to focus on eating lower energy dense foods and higher nutrient dense foods. So when it comes to reaching and maintaining a healthy weight, we need to understand that we need to eat lower on the calorie dense scale. We need to start our diet with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. And then if you incorporate anything else in, the more higher calorie things are certainly there. Things like oil. I would say right away, stop consuming oil. It's not necessary for healthy living, but it's 4,000 calories a pound. If we were to cook a bowl of pasta and vegetables, and let's just say it's 600 calories, and we gave it to you without oil at 600 calories, you would eat that whole bowl. If you take that same bowl and you add 300 calories worth of oil into it, you would eat that same bowl, but instead of 600 calories, you just consume 900 calories worth of food. So what's going to happen is that excess fat is going to be easily stored. So we need to be mindful of eating more unprocessed foods, avoiding and limiting more of the processed foods, but also the higher calorie dense foods. Everything above 500 calories, from ice cream that can be about 1,500 calories, to cheese that can be about 2,000, 2,500 calories, to French fries and potato chips that are around 1,500 to 2,000 calories, to chicken, which is around 1,200 calories. Essentially, what you have to understand is the more higher fat, higher protein type foods, as well as the processed foods, they're typically higher in calorie density. So when we eat the lower calorie nutrient dense foods, it just displaces some of the more high calorie, uh, calorie dense foods. Another recommendation is to make your fat intake count. Oftentimes in America, they've recommended that we eat more fat than we should. Oftentimes in America, we've told people you need to consume up to 30% of your calories from fat. Traditional recommendations, they'd say 10% monounsaturated fat, 10% polyunsaturated fat, and 10% saturated fat. Okay, so let's clarify this here. There are things that we refer to as good fats and bad fats. Monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats are those fats typically found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, natural food products, nuts, seeds, things like that. While saturated fat typically comes from some of those food sources, such as coconut and coconut oil. Coconut oil is extremely high in saturated fat, and that's something that we absolutely want to nix out of our diet as well for the implications for heart disease. But we also need to understand that trans fats and cholesterol fats are not good for us either. So when you eat unprocessed plant-based foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, you're going to get natural unprocessed fats, and our body metabolizes them, and they're way better for us. But something to note here is that fats in the form of nuts and seeds are very calorie dense. So you do have to be mindful, even though they're very high in fiber, you have to be mindful that they are very calorie dense. So it's easy to overconsume them. For example, a cup of cashews is 800 calories. Now consider this. Have you ever eaten a cup of nuts? Most of us would say, yeah, absolutely. Cashews are delicious, but they're very calorie dense. Now, flipping that on the other side, for that same amount of calories, you can eat about 6, 7 small to medium sized potatoes, baked potatoes with salsa. So think about it, a cup of cashews versus 6 to 7 small potatoes. So we need to make our fat intake count. We do, in fact, need the omega-3 fatty acids that come in plant-based foods, but we need to minimize the omega-6 fatty acids that typically come in the animal-based foods, as well as the saturated and trans fatty acids. All right, now physical activity is a key component here. It's not the cause of most of the rates of obesity and individuals that struggle with being overweight, but it's a factor. Oftentimes the food industry and most, medical recommendations tell you that you're overweight because you're not exercising enough. Me personally, what I've seen as a health professional, it plays a role and it's a factor, but oftentimes we don't want to address nutrition as the #1 cause of death and disability, which it is. According to the 2010 Global Burden of Disease study, as hundreds of thousands of people were evaluated, they found that the most significant cause of death and disability was food, was what we consume. Okay, physical activity was like number 7 or 8 on the list. We need to be active. All right, so let's talk about why. It's really good because you're burning energy, okay? You're strengthening your muscles, you're lowering your risk of chronic diseases, you're improving your mood, you're actually creating additional energy as a result. And so what we want to do here is understand that you want to focus on getting daily exercise. The typical recommendation is you want to aim for about 150 minutes. That ends up being about 30 minutes 5 times a week. What I often recommend to others, and I try to shoot for myself in my own personal life, is 30 to 60 minutes of physical activity or walking, hiking, gardening, just getting out there and being active. These things matter. You don't have to run 5 miles on a treadmill to consider it activity. If you do that and you like that, great. But it's important for us to consider that being physically active and even the simple exercise of walking is very beneficial for us. Now, sleep. Sleep is something that we under prioritize in American culture. Sleep has decreased through the years. We oftentimes binge watch Netflix or, streaming services, and oftentimes our sleep gets decreased. So what happens is we oftentimes mask our chronic fatigue with things like caffeine or energy drinks. We try to get through the day, but we're very tired. And when we're not getting enough sleep, it tends to lead to overeating as well as eating more of the unhealthy things. Consider something in your lifestyle when you typically don't get enough sleep. The next day, is it a great day in the fact that are you exercising, eating well, eating good, both quality and quantity of food, or maybe do you care less? I know for me, working with people, when sleep is affected, it affects everything in our life. So it's important for us to aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night. Create a sleep routine that has consistent sleep and wake schedules. If the goal is 7 hours a night and you have to get up at 7, work back. Make sure you're in bed by 11, asleep by 11:30 or 12. Try to go through and figure out how you can create a sleep routine for yourself. And then we want to focus on stressing less. Now, stress is a part of life. We can't run from our stress. But what we can do is understand that stressors are the cause of our stress, and stress is our response. So what we have an opportunity to do is to take a look at our own personal life and responsibilities and say, okay, where are my stressors and how do I normally respond? And what we want to do is we want to put our stressors in different buckets, and our stress response will be much better. So we want to focus on if it's important but uncontrollable, you want to accept and positively cope. If it's important but controllable, you want to create an action plan and then take action. You want to say to yourself, okay, what am I struggling with and what can I do to improve? But it's important for us to understand and say, okay, well, if my normal stress response is to go to the pantry and get the snack foods, okay, what can you do in place of that? Can you go for a walk, or can you go to bed, or can you read? What is it that's going to distract you from more of the unhealthy coping mechanism and make a healthy swap there? But for you and for me and for everybody, we have to consider, well, what are our stressors? Put them in those classifications, important and controllable, or important and uncontrollable. But then we have to figure out what we can do to deal with them in a more positive way. Another thing we have to consider is our triggers. Oftentimes when we overeat or eat more unhealthy or do more unhealthy behavioral areas, or focus on behavior, unhealthy behaviors, that is, it's because of how we're feeling. Okay. So there's a trigger, there's an environmental cue, there's a cue to action. We have this cue and then we act. It might be, okay, it's 10 o'clock. I haven't eaten dinner for 4 hours. I'm still up. I'm watching a movie and I want something from the pantry. Okay, that might be a trigger. You might say, okay, all right, what am I going to do? What can I do instead of that? Maybe I'm going to get ready for bed and go to bed, or I'm going to brush my teeth and make sure I don't eat because I don't want to brush my teeth again. Like, there's little things that are out there for you to do, but you have to figure out what works for you. But first, you have to do take a real hard look at and examine what are your triggers and what can you do about it. All right, a big portion of what we do as an organization is we focus on helping people. Once you've mastered and you start kind of living healthier and living better, we want you to focus on leading by example, hence the name Live and Lead, live better and lead by example. We want you to focus on creating a healthy environment for you, your family, your friends, your community, but then help know the way, go the way, but then show the way. Be an inspiration for people around you. It could be a significant other. It could be your own children. It could be a husband and wife, family member, friend, anybody. Bring them on the journey with you. As you're getting everything you want with your health and with your life, bring other people along and use your example to help them. I think oftentimes when we hear inspirational stories of other people, it is a cue to action for us to say, if they can do it, I can do it. And I want to have the benefits just like that. So anytime you're working on behavior change or at any point in your journey, you have to always take some time to reflect. Take a minute, step outside of where you are and look and think, okay, what are you doing well? What can you do better? And what else do you want to improve? It's important for us to consider, to focus on the positive. What's going well in your life? Instead of saying, okay, all these 5 areas aren't good in my life, focus on what is good in your life. When I'm working with somebody or coaching somebody or helping somebody, I say, okay, well, what are your strengths? What are things that are going well right now? And when we focus our conversation around that, we can build that self-efficacy, which is our belief in our ability to accomplish something. Then focus on what you can do better and be honest with yourself. And then what else do you want to do to improve? Always take the time to reflect, because knowledge and applied knowledge are different. But then once we're going through and applying what we're learning and then reflecting on our experiences, we can get better much quicker. So some things I want you to consider here for you, wherever you are in your life. Why do you want to live healthier? just think about it. Is it for your family? Is it for your significant other? Is it for you to do some things in your life that you've always dreamt of doing? What is it? Why do you want to live healthier? Once you know the why and you have the clarity around that, then focus on what's one thing that you can start doing today. What's one thing that you are willing to do today based off of some of the things we talked about, from the nutritional shifts to physical activity to sleep to stress? What are some areas that you are willing to step up your game and make some changes and some improvements? And then start planning out from that. What do you want to do next week? What's your long-term goal? Let's set some very specific goals to figure out what does that look like for you. But oftentimes we don't focus enough on why we want to do something. We just focus on what we have to do. But we need to remember why we're doing it, because oftentimes that's what feeds the fire. A resource that I'm going to share following our presentation is our progress behavior change system we created. It focuses on 9 behavior change steps that really go through from assessing, identifying your purpose, creating your priorities, looking at your mindset, implementing your game plan, and then taking action, really going through and implementing what it is you came up with, reflecting, improving, and leading along the way. This is a very simple framework that you can use on a variety of things. And a quote that I always remind myself when I think of using systems and creating efficiencies is John Maxwell once said, systems are like freeways. You can get where you want to be faster than if you don't use them. So for example, we could drive to Florida from our area where we live, and we could get there in 1,000 miles on 95, or it could take 1,200 miles on Route 40 and take twice as long. So consider using this progress behavior change system to address any behavioral area you have in your own life. Also want to call out a few things for you guys. If there's any support we can provide as an organization, we have a variety of different courses. We have mini courses that typically are about an hour's worth of content and information. We have our standard courses, which are about 3 hours, 1 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. And then our flagship course, which is a more substantial behavior change framework where we address everything from sleep to stress to nutrition to activity, through relationships, risky substance avoidance, things like that. So what I would say is consider joining our school, taking a look at our resources. We do have complimentary. All of our mini courses are complimentary, and we're in the process of creating and releasing more health challenges as well. So if you haven't joined already, I would recommend you consider joining just for the support. Our job is to help support you, challenge you, and equip you so you can achieve it for yourself. I want to take a minute to share this quick promotional video we have for our Maximize Your Lifestyle course.
Are you struggling to lose weight and keep it off? Are you tired of dieting? We are Live and Lead. We offer an online health improvement course that will equip you in living better and leading a healthy lifestyle to succeed in long-term weight management. Learn how you can eat more to weigh less through consuming low-calorie, nutrient-dense foods. Sign up for our transformational course to learn how you can maximize your lifestyle to reach and maintain a healthy body composition. Take responsibility for your health and get started today at livelead.org.
All right, so that's just a quick mention of our Maximize Your Lifestyle course. That's all around our topic today. But I do want to do a quick mention and share that we do have, this was the first of our Live Better webinar presentations, but we're going to be doing this every 2 weeks throughout the remainder of the fall of 2021. So as you can see next, we're going to be focused on Healthy Now and Forever. We're really going to dive into how to set up a framework for all the different areas of our life, from sleep to stress to nutrition to activity, like I had mentioned previously. And then we're going to specifically dive into more focused areas: mental health, cognitive function, immunity, blood pressure, other chronic diseases as well. So we hope that you'll save the date, mark your calendar. If you join our school, you will automatically receive all of the communications about all of these upcoming webinars. And I can tell you this, that it's such a gift and an honor to be able to kind of share the knowledge we have as an organization. We have a small organization. We have a team of individuals that we're all about serving and supporting and helping people with where they are to become the best version of themselves. So I want to challenge you and invite you, and all these links will be workable when I share this presentation. But essentially, go out there and write your story. Figure out how you can improve your health. Let us help you. We have our podcast, our blogs. We have all kinds of great resources. We're going to be looking to figure out how we can add value, whether it's through content, information, support, encouragement. Our job is to really help you craft your story. So with that being said, I really want to thank everybody for attending today. And for those of you that listen to the recorded webinar, if there's anything we can do to support and serve you, you can find us at livelead.org. And we would be happy to be a positive part of your life and really help you become the best version of yourself. So with that